All right, welcome back to Extra AI, your podcast series on AI and machine learning applications. This is your host Raghu Banda, and today we are coming up with an interesting topic on image segmentation with deep learning in the context of medical field. So, we will be discussing a few things around the segment anything model from Meta in the context of image segmentation, deep learning. So, in this context, I have the honor of inviting a guest, Dr. Srinivas Bhattiprolu, who is a luminary in the field of microscopy and digital solutions. So, Dr. Srinivas or Dr. Srini currently is spearheading the digital solutions division at Zeiss, and is also an integral part of a team that is revolutionizing the microscopy landscape through the integration of the state of the art digital technology and AI. He has an illustrious career amassing over 25 years in microscopy. He holds a doctorate in material sciences and engineering from Michigan Technology University and a master's degree in physics from the University of Hyderabad in India. Beyond his impressive academic and professional accolades, Dr. Bhattiprolu has also made an inedible mark in the digital sphere with his popular YouTube channel called Digital Srini. So, this channel, Digital Srini, boasts over 75,000 subscribers and is a treasure trove of Python tutorials, various different Python tutorials aimed at image and data analysis. I have the honor of inviting Dr. Bhattiprolu, aka Digital Srini, which is he is fondly called, uh, and we will be talking about the subject of image segmentation with deep learning in the context of the medical field. As always, you will find more information at the end of the podcast. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. All right. Welcome back to Extra AI, our podcast series on machine learning and AI applications. And today I have a guest, Srinivas Bhattiprolu, or he's also fondly called as Digital Srini. He has got quite a few of YouTube videos talking about the different aspects of deep learning and machine learning. Today, we are taking a topic of image segmentation with deep learning in the context of medical technology. So welcome on board, Srinivas. Maybe if you can provide a quick background about yourself and how you are connected to AI, or specifically the topic that we are kind of going to discuss today.
Yeah, thank you, Raghu, for the introduction. And of course, thanks for inviting me to the podcast. About myself, I'm a physicist and a material scientist by education. And I have collaborated with many researchers over the last 2 decades from diverse fields, from oil and gas, from solar, battery materials, biotech. I'm lucky enough to actually work with diverse fields. And of course, all of those with a primary focus on microscopy to answer these research engineering questions. So, of course, no need to mention that my passion lies in understanding microscopy images and extracting information out of these micrographs. And part of that, actually, my process of trying to help researchers, I initially thought of, training them in Python, and I started four or six videos. I uploaded them on YouTube because I didn't have any other way of sharing these videos with them. And they asked a couple more questions. I'm like, okay, here it is. And I found a way of generating these videos with, I should say, not as much effort. And not just a handful of researchers, apparently a lot of them liked it. And now, after 70,000 subscribers, I'm glad to be still learning new topics, digesting them myself, and then putting them in a way that hopefully my audience will understand. Again, most of the focus has been on image segmentation, like you already mentioned in my introduction.
Great to know that, Srini.
And I know that is where the birth of this digital Srini happened with your YouTube channels, and that's an amazing way. Even I go there, and I found it very interesting and very useful.
Mhm.
Uh, so just like how we do before I get into the actual meat of the conversation for the podcast, I to ease our audience into the conversation, I try to come up with this teaser question. Any personal or professional experience about how AI influenced you and how you have done things in the past and how you see that AI is inherently being used? Would you like to quote some example like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not like I found AI, without a reason, right? There was a
Right.
reason how and why I stumbled upon AI. In fact, coming from a material science background, I always relied on spectroscopy and diffraction, the traditional techniques, to understand the microscopy world. And my answers were given by spectroscopy and these diffraction techniques. But as I started getting into other applications, especially using 3D images, generated using tomography or any other, focused ion beam, scanning electron microscopy, you name it,
Mhm.
especially when I got into these image-centric applications, that's where I found the need for image analysis.
Okay.
I didn't have the luxury of spectroscopy or diffraction, even if I had the luxury, not at the volumes that I was interested in. I was looking for very large data sets, and there is no other than processing images, there wasn't a much more efficient way of extracting information. So I didn't come from image processing background. So I actually talked to a few image processing experts, and they showed me a few ways of teasing out this information from images. And I thought I understood, went back to my desk, and I had no clue what I had to do. Right, so it became such a big issue for me. I couldn't do it. I could, even if I could, I couldn't reproduce it.
Hmm.
But I wanted something that is reproducible. And that's how I stumbled upon AI. Then I started discussing, and and it was emerging. And I'm talking about 2014, 15, not that long ago, but yet long ago
Right.
from an AI perspective. So this is how I actually ended up discovering the world of machine learning initially, the conventional machine learning, the random forest support vector machines, and so on. And then eventually, maybe about 5, 6 years ago, venturing into the world of deep learning. And now we are advancing at such a rapid pace. I'm struggling to keep up with all the technological, changes that are happening almost on a daily basis.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, I think great to know that coming from the background of being a physicist and a material scientist, I think it's great that you didn't stumble upon this technology, but you have leveraging this technology in how it can help your regular daily use at your workplace, and that is a great way, I think. And also your uh, in the way you're not only learning, but you're also kind of teaching the people around you and how you can use. That's a great way of putting the thoughts there. Any thoughts before we get into the conversation? Any thoughts that you would like to bring up about the upcoming AI advancements in the current world? I know we keep hearing about a lot of these different uh, exponential technologies like the language model, large language models, and ChatGPT. But any thoughts from you before we get into our main conversation?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I can offer various thoughts on this because I mean, there are developments in many fields, and we all hear about ChatGPT. And if we just talk about ChatGPT, right? I mean, just a few days ago, I think it was uh, April, at least I remember end of April, I believe, where we heard news about a study on how ChatGPT provided higher quality answers and found to be more empathetic, not just higher quality answers, but also more empathetic than a real
Hmm.
doctor.
Hmm.
And to me, that came as a big surprise, especially the empathy part, because you don't expect that from an AI.
Right.
Because so that's why I foresee a lot of advancements in the medical field. As I mean, of course, in all the fields, but definitely in the medical field, because that is a very expensive component in most of our lives. And I'm not just speaking about the Western world, like in the US. Even if you want quality medicine in any part of the world, it has been very much accessible to the wealthy, let's say, like even a regular hospital visit, right? So if the basic healthcare is accessible to the masses, then that is pretty amazing. So I that's exactly why I'm excited to see all those changes in the medical field. So that's definitely something that I'm keeping a close eye on.
Beautiful. That's a great point that you raised, Srini. I think about how the impact of AI on the medical technology can help for the better good, and how we can get the technology closer to the masses. I think that is where I think there's a lot to be leveraged.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe let's take a quick break and then come back and get into the main meat of our conversation. All right, welcome back. So let us now get into this today's topic of image segmentation with deep learning. So before getting there, like Srini, how do you see our AI transforming enterprises and these different consumer businesses, right? Maybe you can talk a bit about your industry specifically. I know you have been involved in this medical technology and this how it can impact in a big way and how
Yeah,
it is transforming.
Yeah, I'd be making millions if I know how industries are going to be affected by AI in future, right? Because we are constantly being surprised with what it can actually do. But one thing I can definitely say is there will definitely be a change. Definitely, our lives are going to be changed with AI. And when it comes to microscopy, it's already making microscopy very efficient. I mean, we have today smart microscopes that understand images at low magnification. Again, I'm going back to microscopes, my comfort zone, but the example applies to any image technology. You can think of computer tomography or wherever. Whenever you image something, you're targeting a specific region, and which typically means bulk of the imaging part is kind of useless. You're throwing away the data. So why waste your time and resources in imaging that regions? So today we already have these smart microscopes where an image at very low magnification is taken, and based on that, the system automatically identifies areas where it needs to image at different experimental conditions. Maybe it is higher magnification, maybe it is different wavelength that it's looking at when it's imaging these regions, but they are smarter. I mean, because they are imaging regions that actually matter, and not imaging regions with empty space or air or glass slides and so on. So I think they are going to get smarter in future. Microscopes definitely, and most of these medical imaging devices. And it's not just the imaging part. I mean, what good is it if you image it at, if you can collect, I don't know, terabytes of data in an hour, but you can only analyze like 500 megabytes in an hour, right? So so image analysis should not be a bottleneck, but I think the accompanying analysis will also be automated to the point where a human just needs to focus on, converting insights to knowledge. Because, okay, from images, you get insights automated. And now what does that mean? But after seeing ChatGPT the last couple of months, maybe even that part gets automated. So, which begs the question, what's the role of humans, in this entire process? But I think that's a different discussion.
So I would want to backtrack a bit and maybe go into one of the aspects that you brought up, right? Like when you're doing this, the smart images or things like that, there is so much of data that is involved. You said that you can extract, you have so much of data like in terabytes, but if you can only analyze few MB of data, you're kind of not leveraging the resources in the right way. So what kind of AI innovations might help you in this aspect? Any would be interesting for you to see?
Yeah, I mean, an AI system that optimizes my entire process. I mean, right on day one, it probably doesn't know that, hey, you should be doing this and this and this and this. But then after observing a few of my imaging and analysis, behavior, let's say experiments, it should recommend that, okay, now I know what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to, let's say, cure cancer by putting these, 380 plus samples, at a time and imaging those. That, okay, this is how. So in a way, I'm thinking about AI telling me what is the best way to optimize my experiments. So I go from my sample preparation to insights in the fastest way possible, rather than doing, maybe I don't need to do 1,000 experiments in future. Maybe I just need to do, 150 experiments in future, right? So for that, today, I think research is full brute force in a way. In a way, we do different experiments and we kind of map it out, which is the right way to do today. But maybe there is a way that can be automated. This is what, again, I don't know, but I know that the technology is there that can get us to that stage. So just imagine being so much more efficient. Hopefully we can come up with therapies in a record time, just like COVID vaccine, right? I mean,
right.
There is AI component in the COVID vaccine, but of course, the bigger piece of technology there was the entire mRNA research that went into, for the last couple of decades. But the record amount of time with which we came up with these vaccines, it's incredible. It saved millions of lives. I truly believe that. And just imagine adding AI component to all these research that's going into, whether it is neuroscience or cell biology, or you pick a field, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I think AI is going to make a very big impact.
So let me take a different. I think I want to get into a different aspect of this question. So, what are the typical challenges that are faced by the customers or the consumers of these medical technology currently? Because you are at the intersection of not only the AI technology, but also the medical technology, which is where you work on a regular basis, day in and day out. So to highlight a bit, before we get into the actual image segmentation process and how it can help deep learning, maybe could you highlight a few of these typical challenges that are faced by the customers, and why do you think it is a problem? I know you briefly touch base that, but maybe could you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, in this case, we have to think about who the customers are, right? I mean, the end customers, but researchers can be one who are consumers of the AI technology in a way. And what type of challenges do they face? And biotech industry is another one, right? So you can think of this from many angles. But I think one of the issues is we, as humanity or governments in general, don't know how to regulate AI. Right. And healthcare is a highly regulated field. So how do we regulate this? How do we keep track of it? Because if you want FDA approval, you need full traceability. A new drug, like, okay, who performed this experiment at what time, and how was the sample prepared, and what type of image analysis tools are required, and is the experiment reproducible? So everything, it's all about traceability for a good reason. And AI is kind of a new tool in this entire field, and we are trying to figure out, okay, how to navigate this FDA rules. And FDA is looking at, okay, how to make sure that they're not a burden to these researchers, and but in fact, helping them. So I think it's more in terms of what to do with this. I mean, you heard about, I'm pretty sure your audience heard about this open letter from all the CEOs asking about, hey, slow down with your AI, right? So when it comes to ChatGPT, there is a reason why they are saying that, because we need to understand what rules need to be defined around AI to make sure that we have a very safe practice going on. So in summary, all of these rules, but they all relate to, ethics, right? I mean, that's another component of it. So I'm not worried about the technology itself. Technology, I truly believe that it's there. It can help us in many ways, and it can hurt us in many ways. But what's stopping us from adopting it purely comes down to our understanding of what the limitations were, what should we do, and what should we not do with this technology. And from end consumers' point of view, For example, I go to doctor's office and I get some notes and everything. Like as a patient, do I need to know that it's an AI who is doing this or an actual human doctor? Again, there are no rules that I know of that are written.
Right.
Today, the AI is just an assistant to the doctor. But can AI replace the doctor? If so, are we ready? So these are unanswered questions in general. And when it comes to research, also the same thought process goes through a researcher's researcher's mind. It's like, okay, I do this automatic segmentation using something. And what part of this automated segmentation is relevant for publication? Some people know the answers. Some people don't know the answer to that, because if they're just using segmentation, whatever the automated segmentation tool, do they need to know every nut and bolt of that? Or is that like a microscope where they don't need to know every little bit, but then they know what to do with the information that they get out of it? So there is a lot of ifs and buts in the statement, in my answer. But as you can tell, I have no answers to many of these questions, and many people don't have answers to these. And this, as a society, we need to collectively address this and set certain boundaries to say, hey, we are going to play within these boundaries. And then I think the adoption would be a bit better compared to where we are today.
So you mean to say that it is not just that the data privacy aspect of it, but also the ethics aspect of it, and how much of this data is relevant to the different players in the field? Because like you mentioned, like there are these researchers, there are these doctors, or there are these other people who are working on these drugs. And for not everybody, I think the whole part of this image is helpful or necessary, but you kind of come up with what kind of output or what kind of outcome you are providing based out of this segmentation. So I would like to stay a bit on that topic. And how do you see now that we are getting into the topic of image segmentation? How do you see deep learning and image segmentation play a bigger role here, like like helping the consumers of this technology?
Yeah, any image-based technique. I mean, I was talking about medical imaging and microscopy, but if you think of any image-based technique, whether it is LiDAR or cameras used for autonomous driving or satellite images or medical images like I was talking about, they all benefit from segmentation. And image segmentation is almost a step that you must perform to provide information. And that segmentation must be, as you can imagine, must be accurate and reproducible. So image segmentation techniques, we had them forever. I mean, from OTSU-based segmentation, where you just set a threshold between, okay, this is my foreground, this is my background. So they have been around for a long time, and they evolved quite a bit, especially in the past 5 years, where we went from the famous UNIT for semantic segmentation. I'm such a big fan of UNIT, and my audience know that I've done quite a few videos on this topic because it's designed for medical image purposes, and so it works amazingly well. And we went from that to segment anything model, recent one by Meta, where it can segment multiple objects without doing any training.
Okay.
So that means very good opportunity for entrepreneurs if you're looking at, okay, how does it affect our society in general? How is it going to help us? Now, I think that to be a very good opportunity for entrepreneurs, because especially if they have skills in niche topics, because these techniques are accessible now. Anyone can use them. I mean, I literally, you watch a couple of my videos or anyone's videos, whatever, you can install the Python environment and you can create an app within a matter of, if not hours, within a matter of a few days. So I, for example, can, if I have the right data, especially, and of course, expertise in that specific niche topic, I can actually create an app, for example, that detects skin cancer lesions. And that app, anyone can use it, and take a quick photo of a skin cancer lesion, and it can right away tell you whether it is malignant or benign with certain probability. In fact, I can even train it to tell what type of skin cancer it is, whether it is I don't know, basal cell or squamous cell or melanoma, whatever. It can give you a certain percentage or probability for that. So how does that impact? Well, if I'm an entrepreneur, I can actually just focus on gathering the data, training my model, creating an app, and there you go. I have an iPhone app. Go market it, and get some customers. And everyone's worried about the things on their skin, and there will be some percentage of population who will probably purchase the app and benefit from it. It's not just a business thing. I mean, it has to benefit the society, and they can detect things at an early stage and consult a doctor whenever needed. They don't have to wait for a doctor's appointment to get that thing checked out. So yeah, so that's how I think image segmentation fits into this overall theme of medical imaging in the example I just provided. Similar examples when it comes to remote sensing. It all comes down to someone's specific skill set in that niche area and availability of the right data to train the models so they can be deployed easily. And if all the other technology is easily available.
Okay. I like the way you put it. I know you briefly mentioned about the Meta's SAM model, well, how you are using about this image segmentation. Could you elaborate a bit for the audience, like what it is and how, maybe a little background on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple, basically. It's they trained it on they came up with a unique architecture and they trained it on a whole bunch of data. So what this SAM model can do is you provide it an image or a video. In each frame, in each scene, it can actually segment out all the objects. So you don't have to train it. You just take the pre-trained model and it detects all the objects. Now, why is it useful? How is it useful? It's pretty new, so we still have to figure out how it can be put to a specific use. One use that I was thinking about is using it as an annotation tool. For example, I want to annotate thousands of nuclei or cells in my microscope images. Why do I need to paint every pixel if it can actually detect a bunch of these objects automatically? And maybe it doesn't do 100% good job. Maybe it picks up, 95% of the objects, and the remaining 5%, I can do it by hand, or I can nudge it. I can do so. So it makes me more efficient when it comes to, for example, data annotation. And it may be fit for certain applications even without any further training, or I can customize it further by fine-tuning it by adding my own images. But what they showed us or demonstrated is that a generalized model is possible where you can take it and put it to application where the user doesn't need to do any more training at all, which is incredible, actually.
Right. And it is, like you mentioned, this Meta AI's the SAM model is already pre-trained on X amount of data. Like any thoughts around like what kind of data that you have? It's like a huge data set or any?
Yeah, just like ChatGPT, right? I mean, what did they do for ChatGPT? They trained it on literally the entire internet, including Wikipedia and a whole bunch of other documents. So, and the models are large enough. So once you have these billions of parameters, you can tune them to understand all this data. Otherwise, if you have limited amount of parameters, if the model is not the right model, you can throw all types of data. Then it's not good at any of those, right? So those type of small models, for example, UNet, it's great if you throw one type of data set at it, and then it works. It does miracles on that type of data set. Hey, segment all these nuclei in histopathology images or something. It does an amazing job. But what Meta actually showed is, okay, you can have a model that can actually understand these diverse, set of it can detect diverse set of objects with absolutely no training. So I think what goes into this is just throw the kitchen sink at it, throw everything, all types of images, labeled images at it. And then the models are robust enough to actually understand this diverse data. When I say robust enough, they have enough parameters to be tuned to detect any of these objects. Yeah.
Right. So the reason why I brought up that question is obviously the next important question that comes in people's mind is that, yeah, I've used this model, the SAM model. I'm doing this image segmentation. I know it spits out some kind of results. But how do I evaluate the effectiveness of this, right? Like, because this is where now you're going ahead and saying that, okay, I know there is no 100% perfect model in the world. There are going to be, even with the manual interpretations, there are going to be issues, and sometimes we have to retract on that. But to get to that general consensus that, hey, I can use this, how do you evaluate the effectiveness and the robustness of these models when maybe in your field, like a microscopic field?
Yeah, that's always a tough question. How do you evaluate it on unknown data? So there are certain metrics that you can look at. I mean, there is the best way is you take ground truth data and then see how the model is actually performing on random ground truth data. There are human annotated data sets that can serve as ground truth, and you can actually generate metrics. There are various metrics, like, for example, you can look at intersection over union. So compared to the predicted model predictions and ground truth, how much of the predictions, what is the overlap between those two, right? So that is a good metric that you can use. But in general, when it comes to completely unknown data, unfortunately, it's not easy to say, hey, this is 98% accurate. I guarantee it on your future data. So that's not. In fact, the segment anything model, it detects all these objects, but again, I haven't seen at least I haven't done these experiments of actually putting known data sets and actually publishing some sort of a quantitative metric, that reflects the accuracy of this. And that's one of the other reasons why I think I'm curious to see what FDAs and others actually say about AI in medical field. Who defines the gold standard metric for image-based applications, whether it is image segmentation, classification, whatever it is, what is that? And right now, I think bulk of it lies in the machine learning engineers who are putting them together, and the businesses who are trying to make companies that are trying to make a business out of it, because it's in their own interest to make sure that it's not spitting out some weird results. So they perform all types of internal tests to see what the quantitative metrics are. But you asked a question where I really do not have a single answer in terms of, yes, this is the metric that you need to look at when you're evaluating the accuracy of this. So all of these, again, how do you know ChatGPT is giving you accurate information? You don't. Right. So true. It's a similar. I'm taking it back to ChatGPT because it's natural language based, so we understand it better than these images. And the scenario is not as bad, but very similar, actually, when it comes to image analysis. All you need to do is just throw some known data at it with known ground truth and quantify the metrics and look at the metrics and say, okay, I'm getting 98% IOU, so I'm confident enough to release this to the public consumption, as long as, again, there is at least one subject matter expert, like, for example, a pathologist, who is actually, in case like it gives let's say an outlier, a red light goes off, and then someone goes back and says, okay, this is accurate or this is not accurate. So we still need humans to confirm the validity. We cannot just blindly put a pathology product out there and say, okay, there you go, the AI is giving you good enough data. That's why I think AI is at a advisor role right now, but not completely replacing a human as of today. So maybe in future, once we figure out how to automate this quality process.
No, that's a great way of putting it. Like currently I think all these AI technologies, I think they would definitely act as an assisted additional tool for the person who is doing the actual job. So it's more like people who have these AI assisted knowledge are better at their work than people who do not have these AI assisted knowledge. So I completely agree that human in the loop is more important at this stage, at this point of time. One other aspect I want to bring up in this is about the explainability of these models. So do you have this additional layer or additional aspect of a particular result being thrown at you or to the person who is working? Uh, I know evaluating the effectiveness and robustness is different, but do you have these additional explainability factors embedded into this that could
Yeah,
provide?
explainability of deep learning is another area where people are researching on, heavily researching on, because we have different even the simple models, right, where you
Right.
have a certain number of layers, and each layer, you're adjusting the weights by throwing a bunch of data, and then at some point you say that okay, it has reached its equilibrium, and let's take those weights. But why did it settle at that question? At that state when it comes to weights, especially when you have billions of parameters. Explaining, for example, when a machine learning model says that, okay, there is a 92% chance, for example, of something happening. Like, why did it reach to that position,
Right.
to that answer? So that is still being researched on, I should say. But you can get certain information from looking at the output from intermediate layers, especially when it comes to image analysis. And you're looking at convolutional neural networks. You can actually look at, okay, how do these filters, responses look like in the first layer, second layer, third layer? And then it's very insightful experiment, actually, when you do that. When you look at these images, you're like, oh, in the first layer, it's actually learning about edges. In the second layer, it's learning more about the shapes. And in the third layer, it's learning more about. So as you go hierarchically through these layers, you start to understand that, okay, it's learning these type of information at different layers. So it's not completely a black box, but it's at the same time, it's not like we understand every bit of why it is doing something.
Right. So you need somebody who can realistically understand these results and interpret it and then use it accordingly in whichever way that it has to be used.
Yeah, luckily you
Yeah.
still need a human
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
interpret at this point. And I think we all always need humans to actually understand, interpret, and explain these to whoever needs this explanation. And again, I think looking at the pace at which this is evolving, I won't be surprised if in a year or 2 years from now, it's like my chat GPT and my image analysis are combined, basically saying that, okay, you gave me this image, and this image has, okay, so and so features. And of those features, I managed to count so many nuclei that are clustered together. And this is exactly why I am assigning certain probability, to this being whatever the diagnosis is, right? So I think it will happen pretty soon, for sure. But as of today, I think it's still a human's job.
True. That completely agree with that. So now I want to go to some interesting question which I put to my guests on the podcast about. This is great technology. We have a lot of things happening, but at the end of the day, I think the business impact, right? You can answer it in different capacities, whether it is as an individual capacity or in the role of your whatever capacity you can answer this. What I'm looking at is how does the competition evolve here, or how does businesses realistically evolve, and how is the competition evolving in this image segmentation field from the medical standpoint, right? Like who does well and who does not well, and that's the $1 million question, right? Like any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the microscopy industry in general, to speak about that industry, you see almost every major microscopy player to be talking about AI for a good reason, because it is helping their users. When I talk to my customers representing my microscope company here, then it's a no-brainer that the technology is helping them. It's making them more efficient. So from the end customer's point of view, if they don't embrace the technology, then they will not be operating at a speed that their competition is operating at. And at the same time, same thing with microscopy. If a company doesn't provide the tools that are required, to make their customers more efficient, then they are going to go somewhere else. So everyone is embracing the technology, whether it is to automate the hardware and provide the end results and solutions. Everyone has their own, in a way, strategies, and they probably pick like their own niche areas where they want to first start testing this out. But literally everyone is embracing this. If you look at the webinars that are done by almost every major microscope company or medical imaging companies, let me put it that way, it's always about how AI, for example, I'm not even talking about microscopy, how AI can automatically detect certain retina features in OCT images. Right, so these are the type of webinars that you actually find when you see out there. So, and personally, when I look at YouTube content in general, right, I try to focus on image segmentation. So I don't see others as a competition. That's a cliche answer. I see them as new ways of teaching, because everyone gravitate towards a certain channel for a certain reason, because maybe they understand the way I teach, maybe they like the content I teach, but they can find content that I teach at many other channels also. So I tend to stick to the topics that I'm familiar with, like image segmentation, image processing, and natural language processing is something that I started to teach myself, because initially, funnily, about 6 months ago, I thought I had nothing to do with natural language processing. But now I have a system on my home computer where I just load an entire PDF article of some scientific publication, and it just summarizes it for me. It's actually making me more efficient. I don't have to read all the details. Right. Unless something interests me. So this is again a long answer to your question, but how do I keep how do microscopy companies think of this? Yeah, if you don't embrace it, you become irrelevant. Same from a personal point of view. If I don't embrace the technology, if I only talk about how you can read images and how you can perform threshold-based segmentation, then that question has been answered a long time ago. We need new tools that make them more efficient. Yeah. So we need to embrace the technology.
That's a great answer that you've provided. I think this whole medical imaging space, the way how it is evolving and how AI is being leveraged in this industry, not only does greater good for the community and for the humanity, but also like how businesses are evolving there and how you can provide better results. So that I agree. That's a great way to look at it. So I know we are almost at the. I try to keep these conversations below that 45-minute limit so that the audience can have more listening time and can learn. I would definitely want to get you on board for another topic in the future. But before that, I would like to. Could you provide some kind of closing takeaways or key remarks that you could provide? Any wisdom from your end? What the audience can look for if they are trying to get into not only the medical technology field, but the field as such as image segmentation in the context of deep learning. It can be applied to any field, right? Like so.
Yeah, of course. I'm pretty sure your audience, since they're listening to this, they are interested or curious in AI technology in general. So I really want your audience to understand the importance of AI and, in a way, make peace with the technology. No point in fighting, because if let's say we don't do it, someone else will do it. The technology is out there, so someone else will take the technology and make it better. So I think we need to make peace with this technology. It's here to stay, and of course, it will kill some jobs, but it will create new businesses. So this is this. It's just that it always happened, right? I mean, but it's happening at a very fast pace. So we are not comfortable with these changes at this pace. So you need to be continuously training and retraining yourself to stay relevant. Today, I'm talking about image segmentation. Maybe image segmentation becomes irrelevant 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I don't know. Maybe the natural language processing is the happening thing 5, 10 years from now. And that's what I'm betting on. So I started teaching myself a bit of natural language processing, and this happened, let's say, 6 months ago, and now I'm a bit comfortable with that, but still a lot to learn. So I'm retraining myself on what possibly would be the happening thing in 2, 3 years from now. So in summary, I think we need to be adaptable to any changes that AI will bring upon us, and eventually I think it'll make us more efficient, and hopefully we will be able to solve real world challenges in a very quick way, whether it is solving, cancer or neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, or solving this climate crisis or something. We have a lot of challenges as humanity. Right. And I think AI is going to definitely help us in answering it at a faster pace.
Great. I think that's and as always, like I've been following your videos as well. It's great inspiration to. I would also tell to my audience that, like you said, like you mentioned, adapting to the changing trends and kind of getting onto the learning these new technologies and how you can adapt or how you can implement for your field that you're working at. That's going to be a great thing. Then thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Raghu. Thank you very much.
All right, let us now wrap up this podcast number 52. So, as we draw the curtain on yet another insightful episode of Extra AI, I would first like to extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to our guest, Mr. Dr. Srinivasa Bhattiprolu, aka Digital Srini, and to all of you for tuning in as well. Today, as you know, we ventured into the captivating realm of image segmentation through the lens of deep learning within the broader context of AI. I hope this there is something interesting that you learned in this conversation, since throughout the conversation we have explored how cutting edge algorithms and techniques are revolutionizing the way we interpret and interact with visual data. As you might have seen, image segmentation, as we learned in the conversation, holds transformative potential across a myriad of industries, from healthcare to autonomous driving to geospatial analysis and more and beyond. Of course, in today's conversation, we predominantly focused on the healthcare field, since our guest, Dr. Srini, or aka Digital Srini, he comes from the background of healthcare devices, or from the material science background. But let's not forget, the AI landscape is evolving, and image segmentation is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. As the technology continues to advance, it is essential for us to remain curious and engaged and open to learning. On that note, I encourage you all to keep exploring and questioning. If you have any further questions on today's topic or today's conversation, feel free to reach out to my guest, since I will be tagging him on my LinkedIn post. Alternatively, you could also reach out to me, Raghu Banda, my LinkedIn handle, or RK Banda, my Twitter handle, and I can put you in touch with my guest, Dr. Srini. As always, you can find humongous amount of other information. There is a wealth of information on the Extra AI podcast series. You can go directly to extraai.com, xtrawai.com, and send me your feedback or reach out to me over there as well. Your feedback is important and your responses are greatly important. So keep sending those important feedback and responses so that we can get more interesting conversations and many more interesting guests. Stay tuned for our upcoming conversations. And as always, have a good morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you're tuned in from or dialed in from. Happy predicting the future with AI technologies. Thank you and bye bye now.